It's year number 3 of the Grant McCasland era out in the 806, and Texas Tech men's basketball is primed to make another deep tournament run and have their shot at cutting down the nets in Indianapolis. In today's video, we'll look at the roster, including preseason Big 12 Player of the Year and unanimous All-American JT Toppin returning alongside Christian Anderson. But who are the other players Texas Tech has added and has returning? We'll look at that, discuss expectations, as well as my record prediction. Let's get to it. Hey, how's it going, everybody? It's RC Maxfield here for the Red and Black Report. Appreciate y'all tuning in to today's Texas Tech men's basketball video. And we're back, ladies and gentlemen. We are at the best time of the year to be a Texas Tech fan. You've got Texas Tech football doing great things on the gridiron. A little hiccup out in Tempe. We can admit that, but they still have got a ton of season left and a ton of talent on that roster with high expectations. And same can be said for Texas Tech men's basketball as you retain the, reigning Big 12 Player of the Year in JT Toppin, and you return Christian Anderson. And, you add a ton of players around them, most notably Lawan Watts. If you're excited about Texas Tech men's basketball, all I'm going to ask you to do is simply like the video, and let's get into it. This might be a longer video today. I'm not going to lie about it. There's quite a bit to discuss, including the fact that, hey, again, you do have JT Toppin returning, and I think high expectations for this roster. So let's go ahead and do this real quick. Let's add this to the stage. Apologies for that technical error on my part, but this is the roster that you're dealing with if you were Texas Tech. Obviously, JT Toppin returning. You've got Christian Anderson taking over as the lead guard for Elijah Hawkins, who's playing overseas now. The aforementioned Lawan Watts coming in from, originally starting at Eastern Washington. Last year played at Washington State. He is your replacement for Darion Williams, who has moved on and playing at NC State now. Really, the biggest things I want you to know about this roster for Texas Tech is the fact that the Red Raiders went out and addressed needs in a very, very articulate and really just pinpoint way. Okay, what do I mean by that? You think about last year, you had Fetty 2 times, and I'm not trying to throw shade on Fetty 2 times. He was a solid center, but really he was limited, specifically on the offensive side of the floor. I mean, he was a guy that infuriated me from the sense that every time he caught the ball, it's like he forgot he was tall. I don't know if that's like a condition, but Fetty had it, okay? That's not the case anymore. You go out and you get, according to Andy Katz, the best defender in all of college basketball to replace him at the 5 spot in Luke Bam Boye. Know the name. He is an elite defender and protector of the rim, and there is a reason JT Toppin is playing the 4. That was by design. A lot of people did not like that when we discussed it here on the channel earlier this summer, but I can almost guarantee you they want to play JT Toppin a lot more at the 5 because Luke Bamboye is a true difference maker, not only on the defensive floor where he will shine, but also on the offensive side of the floor where he is a true rim runner and a guy that can play above the rim and make things easy in the pick and roll and be able to space the floor for shooters. Speaking of shooters, Tyree Bryan, you see him on your screen right there. He's a transfer from Santa Clara. He is a guy that is an absolute sniper, shot north of 40% from the outside last year for the Broncos of Santa Clara. He comes in as one of the best two-way guards in the country, shooting 40% from 3, as I mentioned, but has an 80% defensive grade according to Synergy last season. He is a true difference maker on the defensive side of the floor in an area that the Red Raiders had to get better at, which was perimeter defense. But he's not the only one Texas Tech added that meets the criteria of shooting 40+% from 3 and being an 80% defender according to Synergy. That is Donovan Atwell from UNC Greensboro. He is a guy that is a lefty. He's really, really versatile. I would not be shocked if he plays some small forward and small ball type situations for Texas Tech. He's crafty and a guy that understands spacing and always seemingly has his hands ready to shoot on the offensive end. There are no joke, potentially, for this Texas Tech team, at least 3, maybe 4 players that will shoot north of 40% from 3 this year. The aforementioned Tyree Bryan, Donovan Atwell, Christian Anderson Jr., and I think JT Toppin can also shoot north of 40% from 3, albeit in a much, much smaller sample size compared to CA, TB, and DA. Now, talking about Lawan Watts, I mentioned earlier that he's a guy that's going to come in and potentially be the D5 replacement. Do not hear what I'm not saying. D5 is a bona fide star at the collegiate level, and it downright just sucks that he's no longer part of this team. But you move on. It's part of just modern college basketball and really just modern college sports in general, the portal, right? But Texas Tech went out. They identified a guy that really, really fits the criteria that they want in that kind of hybrid 3, can play bigger if needed at the 4 spot, and can also be a point guard for certain sets. And Lawan Watts checked all those boxes. He is a guy that I truly believe will come in and really just propel himself into first-round NBA draft conversations. He's that good, okay? He's a guy that averaged north of 14 points at Washington State, is a willing passer, an understanding defender in the sense of he knows what he's best at, and he can put people in certain spots where he thrives defensively, and it really is a weakness for the opposing ball handler or whoever he's guarding on the offensive end for that respective team. Now, one of the things that's more fascinating to me when it comes to Lawan Watts compared to D5, he loves to get out in transition. This team is going to score points, people. I can promise you that. Let me get on the screen real quick for this one, because this is something I need y'all to hear. This team is going to score points, okay? This is going to be easily the best offensive team Texas Tech has had in the last decade since the Tubby Smith era. That includes, obviously, the Beard era. You got Mark Adams in there and McCaslin. This is going to be the best offensive team the Red Raiders have. Point blank, period. And it starts with CA and, well, of course, JT Toppin. But Lawan Watts is easily your 3rd best player. No disrespect to Donovan Atwell, Tyree Bryan, Luke Bamboye. They know their roles, and I promise you this, Red Raider Nation, they will thrive in them. One guy that I am very interested in seeing, he was a late addition to this team, that's Jalen Petty. He's a 4-star freshman guard out of the class of 2025 from Seattle, Washington, and was the Gatorade High School Washington State Player of the Year last year. I've had multiple people that know a lot more about the grassroots scene of high school basketball tell me, basically, if Jalen Petty was 6'2", he would be in the conversation to be the number 1 overall pick in next year's NBA draft. Now, would he end up being that? No, but I said in the conversation. He is going to be really good. Texas Tech is going to have another star freshman guard. I'm not going to put the expectations of what CA did on JP this year, but I promise you this, Jalen Petty will be a big-time contributor for the Red Raiders in their rotation, and a guy you need to know early and often as an instant impact player off the bench as a true freshman for Texas Tech. Josiah Mosley is a transfer from Villanova. He's a kind of a tweener guy where you look at his size and you think, oh, he should be a small forward, but I compare him to like a pit bull, okay? He's just built like a freaking Mack truck and is physical down low. Maybe not the tallest guy in the world, but understands his body type and how to use it very, very well against guys that are maybe taller than him down in the post. He's a guy that's going to be a part of the Texas Tech rotation, and a guy that I'm very interested to see how they utilize him, maybe at the 4 spot with JT on the floor, or shoot, they may even put him at the 5 and let JT continue to stretch out. But Josiah Mosley is a guy I'm very excited about in terms of an add from the portal. Now, another guy from the high school ranks is Texas Tech actually added 3 high schoolers to this roster. Trell Hoover probably won't play this year. I'll get him out of the way real quick. He was the latest add for the Red Raiders. He's a center from San Antonio. They want to redshirt him this year, but they took him on as a last scholarship to the roster. And he's a guy that's popped a little bit, according to Grant McCaslin, in early practices, but they want to be true to the process with him. He's more than likely going to redshirt, and you may not see him at all this season for Texas Tech. Nolan Groves is the guy I want to talk about more, though. He's from Minnesota, and much like Jalen Petty, he won the Minnesota State Gatorade Player of the Year, much like Petty did up in the state of Washington. He's a guy that really wasn't ranked too late into his process, but then became a three-star guy, and there were quite a bit of big-time offers, including Wisconsin, Minnesota, the home state got involved. Obviously, your Red Raiders and Wichita State as well. So he's a guy that I'm not sure exactly what his role will look like. I know the coaching staff is very fond of him. Maybe a guy that they see what they have during non-con and then shrink the rotation during Big 12 play and he gets cut out. We shall see. But he's a guy that I'm very interested to see what happens. I think he can run the point if need be, but he is a bigger, stronger guard and a guy that kind of pops early on in terms of the practices for the Red Raiders. Now, I do want to look at the schedule because I know a lot of people were talking about, hey, RC, I'm not very happy about this non-con schedule for Texas Tech men's basketball in terms of the last few seasons. Well, I'm glad you asked because this is unreal. You see it on your screen right there. Texas Tech starts with Lindenwood, Sam Houston. By the way, I'll be at that Sam Houston game if anybody wants to come say hi out in the 806. But the Red Raiders have maybe the best non-con schedule that they have had in a quarter century. Not trying to boost it too much, but you'll hear me out real quick, okay? So you start with Lindenwood and Sam Houston. Okay, it is what it is. You go to Champaign to play a top 20 Illinois team that is built upon mostly Europeans. Every player in their starting rotation, or starting lineup, I should say, is projected to be from Europe. Then you come back home and you play Milwaukee before heading off to a preseason tournament where you'll face Wake Forest in the first game. And then if you win that game, you're more than likely going to face off against the preseason #1 team in the country in the Purdue Boilermakers. So 2 teams in the top 20 before the calendar flips to December. When the calendar does flip to December, you play LSU out in Fort Worth at Dickies Arena, and then you face another top 20 team in the Arkansas Razorbacks, a rematch of the Sweet 16 last year for Texas Tech. Coach Cal's going to have them boys ready. Arkansas is a legit national title contender, in my opinion, even if they are very young. Then you face off against Northern Colorado before heading up north to Madison Square Garden to face off against the Duke Blue Devils on December 20th. That'll be interesting for sure. So you look at this, and there is potentially for Texas Tech 4 top 20 matchups, 4 top 17 matchups if the Red Raiders beat Wake Forest and play Purdue in that preseason tournament. Okay? This is an absolutely loaded non-con schedule for Texas Tech, and one where, if we're being honest about it, I think there's a real chance Texas Tech leaves and goes into the Big 12 slate with 3 losses. I don't think that would surprise me. I think you could lose to Duke. I think you could lose to Purdue. It's going to be very tough beating Illinois up in Champaign. Same can be said for Arkansas. I think this team is very good, but I would not be surprised if Texas Tech has 3 losses headed into the Big 12. Now, the nice thing is about the Big 12, you play in the Big 12 and you have the chance to really amp up your resume. You play at Houston in game number 2 of Big 12 play. You play Houston at home as well later on. You play BYU at home and on the road. You actually finish your Big 12 slate in Provo on March 7th, but you have multiple opportunities against preseason top 20 teams. You have a loaded slate if you are the Texas Tech Red Raiders. Now, the Red Raiders were picked to finish in the Big 12 at a pretty high level. They were picked to finish 3rd, were the Red Raiders, and honestly, that feels about right. They were picked behind Houston, who should be the early favorite to win the conference, and then BYU, who I could see it going either way in terms of if you like Texas Tech more than BYU, put them at 2 and vice versa. Okay, so I'm not really going to be too upset about that. When it comes to expectations for me, last year, you heard it here first. I said Texas Tech was an Elite 8 team. Where'd they end up? the Elite Eight. And truthfully, they were a couple missed free throws away from having a chance to cut down the nets down in San Antonio, which would have been a ton of fun. That being said, sometimes the bounces don't go your way. This year, Texas Tech is loaded once again. You have arguably, at worst, a top 3 coach in the toughest league in the country, in the Big 12. I do not want to hear it from SEC people. The Big 12 this season is the toughest conference in America. Full stop, okay? There are 6 teams that I think could actually cut down the nets if things go their way in the Big 12. Fully, truly believe that. Texas Tech is one of them, okay? My expectations for the Red Raiders are very similar to last year. I think this is an Elite Eight team. Again, a lot of things have to go your way. I understand the injury luck side of it, but you have a preseason All-American in JT Toppin, the best player in the Big 12 in JT Toppin, and arguably a top 3 guard in the Big 12 and a top 10 overall guard in college basketball in Christian Anderson. You went out and you addressed major needs, not only in the front court with Luke Bamboye, but also in the back court with guys in Tyree Bryant, Donovan Atwell, that are elite shooters, but also really good defenders, ranking 80th percentile on the defensive side of the floor in terms of on-ball, perimeter defense, okay? This team is loaded. You know they're going to be well coached. They're going to shoot the lights out of it. They're going to score an elite level. And I think their defense, it may take a little bit to get where they want, but I think this has the chance to be a very good, not elite, but very good defense. But that is going to complement the offense really, really well. And I'm not going to pick Texas Tech to win the Big 12. In good faith, I can't do it. I think Houston is the clear best team in the Big 12. But I will say the Red Raiders do finish second. I think they're that good. I think they go into March Madness as a 2 seed, and I think the Red Raiders at least make it to the Elite Eight and have a true chance to cut down the nets up in Indianapolis. So, again, I think this Texas Tech team, it may not win 27 games or anything like that in terms of the regular season, but I do think that they are very, very good. I think that they are a 2, at worst, a 3 seed in March Madness. They make the Elite Eight at worst and have a chance to cut down the nets in Indianapolis, led by JT Toppin and Christian Anderson. Longer video, but these season previews, man, I got to keep y'all up to date with this stuff. We're so back, though, Red Raider Nation. We're so back. They can take the tortillas away from us, but they can't take the absolute dog out of everybody in Red Raider Nation. I'll tell you that right now. I'm excited that Texas Tech men's basketball is back. I'm excited as hell about what Joey McGuire and crew are doing on the gridiron. David, I'm happy to have you here on the Red and Black Report. If you want more free Texas Tech men's basketball and Texas Tech football content all year long, this is the place for you. Lucky enough, you found us and you stayed till the end. Just so I can tell you this, if you want 100% free Texas Tech content all year long, be sure to like the video, hit that subscribe button, and turn on that notification bell to join the largest group of Texas Tech fans on YouTube right here on the RBR, the Red and Black Report. I'm RC Maxfield, reminding you, as always, stay safe and Wreck 'em Tech.